So I've just done a web search for City and Guilds NPTC assessment schedules, and it's come up here, qualifications, www.nptc.org.uk. Yeah, so let's have a click on there. And here we go. And then I'm going to point with the pen, Forestry and Arboriculture Level 2. So we click on that. And then we've come up with this. So we've got City and Guilds NPTC Level 2 Award in Chainsaw Maintenance. And then below it we've got Level 2 Award in Cross-Cutting Timber using a chainsaw. Okay, so let's just click on that one. And there we've got the qualification guidance at the bottom there. And there you go, see? And let me just scroll down. 3, 4, page 5. And here we go. So you can download these schedules. Yeah. And you can work from them. So let's just go out of there and back one, and the top one there is award in chainsaw maintenance. Just click on it, opens it up, go for chainsaw maintenance qualification document. Hopefully that's the one we're looking for. There it is. There's the schedule. So download these and print them out. Again, there's 5 pages telling you about what's expected of you and the assessor, and then there's all the questions. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's get out of here. Right, on with part 2, which is about the cross-cutting. Right, next page. Describe how environmental damage can be caused and minimised. 1 cause, 1 prevention. Not sharpening the chain, sharpen it. If your chain's blunt, you'll use 50% more fuel and oil. So sharpen it. There are other answers there, but just do that one, that's good enough. Pre-start checks. Are the bar bolts tight? Are you full of fuel and oil? Yeah. Is anything hanging off? Safe starting. It's on the floor. Saw on the floor with the chain brake on. So, you know, 1 boot on the rear knuckle guard. Left hand on the top handle. Yeah. As I say, chain brake on. Put the choke on. Couple of pulls, it coughs, take the choke off, away it goes. Leaving the saw on the floor, just knock the chain brake off, keeping both hands on the saw, yeah, and just rev the saw up, or you can lift the saw up with the chain brake on, take the chain brake off with the left hand, not with the right hand, and just warm the saw up, rev it up a bit, warm it up. You know, it's a piece of equipment, so you don't just rev it flat out from stone cold, especially in the middle of winter. Yeah, okay. Then you've got chain brake test and oil test. Now you're supposed to just, once you've warmed up, run the chain at middling revs until you can see some oil. So say for instance you've got a log and the chainsaw, just sit it like that, and you should get some oil here. I think it's quite an old-fashioned test, but as long as you know how to do it, then it's good enough. What's the point in spraying oil everywhere? Yeah, if it's your own saw, you'll know whether it oils or not. Chain brake test is, there's 2 ways. Either for huskies, run it flat out and drop the chain brake on, it'll go wah-doo, right, like that. Or With the stills, apparently now, don't know why, but you could do the full rev brake test if you want, or you could put the chain brake on and rev the saw against it. We're not allowed to discern between the two, but all I would say is you want it to work when it's running flat out. So if it breaks when you test it at flat out, then it could have saved your life. Yeah, because then you replace it with a new one, whereas sort of, I don't know, 3 months down the track you really want it to work and it just breaks. Enough of that rant. Right, next question, 2.2. Inspect the timber for tension and compression. Now, for crying out loud, it's not rocket science. You've got a piece of timber supported at either end. If you cut there, when you get 3/4 of the way through, the middle will drop and trap your saw, so it compresses the saw, right? So that's your compression. Okay, so if you cut under there, supported either end, as you cut through, it will open up, so the timber is in tension because it's pulling apart. So to do this correctly, nick on the top about 1 inch and then cut from the bottom. Why do you do a nick on the top? If you imagine that's the nick, like that, 1 inch, as you cut from underneath, you're coming up, as you break into that nick, the top closes. So doesn't trap your saw. If you don't do a nick on the top and you have to cut all the way through, the last top bit is going to do that. So it just makes life easier. Now then, you got the log overhung. Okay, cut on the top, it's going to open up. Cut on the bottom, this is going to drop, trap your saw. So therefore, tension on the top, compression on the bottom. So in this case, you would nick on the bottom, cut from the top. Just think about it. Some people, they haven't got a 3-dimensional mind, but they'll have to learn. So we can talk about describing tension and compression, so that's what I've just done. 4.1. Right, here we are, 4.1, nearly there. How do you remove a trap saw? Yeah, switch it, put the chain brake on, switch it off. Well, that's the old answer, but actually just switch it off, because you might want the chain to roll through the saw when you're trying to remove it. Okay, so just switch it off. Then if it's stuck, put a lever underneath to open the cut up, or you can cut 30 centimeters, which is 1 foot, away from it with another saw. Drive a wedge in, all sorts of things. Just use your brain. Then there's a cross cut. This is the activity. Okay, so you've got to cross cut timber to length, accordance with the job specification. So that can be anything. It could be like, there's a place over in Leicestershire where we cut to about sort of 1 metre long. Other places where you cut to 7'6". So you've got to have timber sufficiently, so therefore you can get tension and compression. Candidates will need to undertake a minimum of 10 severing cuts, maximum of 20. So if you're rubbish, you can go up to 20 cuts, but they've got to be 10 of which have got to be good. 4 cuts undertaken must be under tension compression, maximum of 8. Okay, so there's a load of criteria there, so just get your head round them. But basically you want to be square to the log and you don't want your head over the bar. So as you start cutting, just move just slightly. Don't be over exaggerated and move like alright over there, but you just want the head slightly to one side. So if the chainsaw kicks, it gets you in the shoulder rather in the middle of the head. So there's loads of stuff there, so you're going to have to read that lot. Here's the one: use appropriate boring cut to initiate either a tension or compression cut. Minimum of 2, maximum of 4. Okay, so watch the video. Yeah, I've identified it at the start. Watch that video and get your head around it. Normally a boring cut is designed for when the tension is on the bottom, but there's not enough gap under the log to get your bar in there. So you bore through the middle of the log down, and then you're removing the tension, and then you can cut up. Watch the video. Do as you're told. This next question will be quite alien to a lot of people. Explain how to grade and present logs. Okay, if you've got an extraction route through the wood, which you would have at regular intervals, or an extraction rack, you'd have the timber. If that's the extraction rack, you'd have the timber butt end towards the extraction right, so you can drive down, grab hold of it, put it on the forwarder. Okay, so grading, you've got chipwood and you've got firewood. So your chipwood would normally be softwoods, so firewood would normally be hardwoods, and you can grade it against species and size. So if you've got big softwoods, then it's not chipwood, it's sawlog. Again, with hardwoods the same. Yeah, so sometimes on bigger stuff you'll present it whole pole, so basically you'll fell it and leave it where it is, but you'll trim it out to a certain top diameter. That's enough. How to move timber safely. So when you're stacking timber, you've felled a tree, alright, and it's heavier at the bottom than the top. So if you need to, you roll the bottom log to an appropriate place where the forward could get to it, and then you move the rest to that. So when you're moving log, end over end, roll it, all that sort of thing, get somebody to help you, or use timber tongs, but you move the light stuff to the heavy. If it's too heavy, if the first length's too heavy, leave it where it is. So that's again stacking. Don't stack more than 1 metre high. I normally, in the risk assessment, put a rule in, manual handling, no lift above 25 kg. Okay, and if you lift anything heavier than that, you've signed the risk assessment, so tough. Check that the timber's safe. It's not going to roll anywhere. Yeah, so you're not going to say if you've got a hill like that, you're not going to stack it like that unless there's a tree here or something to retain it. You might stack it that way, but you still can sort of roll this way and that way, so just make sure it's right. State what precautions, and it just asks for one precaution. There you go. Tree stumps. Using features such as tree stumps to brace timber behind. Avoid stacking timber on steep slopes. State recognised methods required to cross-cut timber above guide bar. Right? Okay, you got this huge great log, yeah, and it weighs like, I don't know, 1.25 tons. You're not going to roll it. None of that nonsense. You cut from one side, and then you walk round the other side and cut from the other side. Yeah, or get a bigger saw. Ergonomic methods, that's basically don't waste energy. Yeah, and don't overstress yourself. So you don't hold the saw out at arm's length. Yeah? A saw is like your enemies. Keep them close so you can see what's going on. And there's a whole business here about repetitive strain injury. So effectively you need to be relaxed with the saw, but hold it correctly. Right, here we go. This thumb, yeah, it's underneath the handle. If it's up here all the time, if it kicks, your hand can come straight out. Underneath, you can hold on to it. Okay, so that thumb, if it's dancing around like Fred Astaire, yeah, a lot half of you won't know what I'm talking about there, but yeah, the thumb needs to be underneath. Okay, so that's it. The schedule's not as difficult as it seems initially. Questions? Let me just zoom in a bit. Here we go. Look at the question or the activity. Yeah. Have a look at the second column. Assessor to observe. And here it's going one precaution. I only want one, so you don't have to remember them all. It's great if you do know them all, but your minimum effort is one. Yeah, okay. So if it asks for one, it'd be a good idea to remember two. But you know, it's not rocket science, so always state the obvious, because half the time the answer is that simple that candidates go, oh, I can't answer that because it's too simple. That's all we're looking for. It's only level 2. And then of course the third column is the various things that we're looking for. For instance here, stack produce, yeah, assessor to observe. We're looking for you to be able to handle the timber correctly with a good stance and avoiding excessive lifting. Well, there's 3 things there, but it's all really one action. Quality of stacking, you want all the butt ends to be all level, so when the forwarder grabs hold of it, you know, he doesn't have to play pick-up sticks, so it's nice and tidy, 2 and the same. The position of the stack relative to extraction, we've talked about that, and proper construction. So effectively you've got a big list there, but it's only 3 items. 1, handling it correctly. 2, stacking it neat and tidy. And the other third thing is stacking the right place. So it seems like a lot, but it's not. You've got to look through the words and work out what actually we're wanting. Again, yeah, all we're looking for you is to, once you've cross-cut it, to put the stack in the right place, not to hurt yourself when you're stacking it, and make sure the stack is neat and tidy. Hopefully, when you look at these other things, you can see through the words and see what we're actually looking for. When I get around to it, I'll probably do a short video on the crosscut. But look at the other videos. Now, if in doubt on something, particularly bar maintenance, have a look at the video on bar maintenance. And you know, I go on interminably about it, but it'll help you. All the best.